We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's milk chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's milk chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's milk chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.
This is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
Today, we are back with our final listener mailbag of the Way Home season, episode number 10. And we are joined by a very special guest this morning. We have Breanne Heldman, an executive editor at People magazine, and dare I say, the Way Home superfan, joining us. Thank you for being here, Breanne.
I will own that title. Thank you for having me. There's nothing on earth I want to talk about more right now than this finale. So
we're so glad.
Thank you for being my landing place.
So you talk about your professional experience with the Way Home, because you got to go to a set.
I've been really lucky with this show. I watched the first episode long before it launched and called Hallmark, and I was like, this works? I don't know why this works. This show should be terrible. Like, the description on paper sounds like a bad show. But when you have Andie MacDowell and Chyler Leigh, you've got a certain amount of magic. I think Chyler Leigh overall is a really unsung hero of television and deserves a lot more credit. She's a highlight on every show she's ever been on, not just Grey's Anatomy and Supergirl, but going way back to an forgotten and canceled too soon show called Reunion that I loved. It canceled too soon. Don't go try to watch it. You'll just get really annoyed because it left on 7,000 cliffhangers.
Oh, no.
And then they asked me to do the Facebook Lives starting with season 1. So I did 5 for season 1, 5 for season 2. And then I got to visit the set, which was a real treat. I need to post my photos. I realized that I just let the time lapse and never posted them, but I have some cute shots in Alice's bedroom and sitting at the kitchen table.
Oh, my
And let me tell you, that kitchen is the coolest Airbnb I've never been able to rent. Like, I want to move into the Landry house. But Elliot's fancy new kitchen is pretty amazing, too.
Yeah,
it deserves
it
deserves to be featured on an HGTV show. It's stunning. And that was really incredible. And then I was lucky enough, the cast came to the People offices and met our staff, which was really great. So I've been really lucky to spend a lot of time with this cast. And as much as you all love them, I also love them. I'm here because you all are my kindred spirits.
I love that. So you are an executive editor at People, but you have a special relationship with Hallmark.
I don't actually work for Hallmark. I feel like it needs to be said. Many people think that I do. I sometimes even get DMs asking me like why we haven't renewed the show yet. I'm like, I don't actually work for Hallmark.
Yeah, we got those emails too, actually. So we're like, what? Please renew it.
I'm just a Hallmark fan, and everywhere I've worked, I've been able to show the value of covering Hallmark in a broader way from a business perspective, but also then it's broadened my relationship with the network. And so it feeds itself back and forth. I've been really lucky to get to know some of these people. It also helps that everyone who works for Hallmark, and that's from the actors to the publicists, they're awesome people. I love them. And they are the warmest, most generous, kind people. And that is true of every actor I've ever met who is on the network.
And you do a lot of event. You were on the cruise, you were at the Kansas City Experience, and you had, if I'm not mistaken, a big hand in that, I don't know what it's called, that Countdown to Christmas kickoff bus tour.
I was not involved in the bus tour, but we did have the 10 Finding Mr. Christmas guys plus the 3 groomsmen come to our offices, and it was a mutual kickoff of Countdown to Christmas and Countdown to Sexiest Man Alive, which was like just perfect synergy. And I have never seen the staff at Meredith, which is our parent company, because a lot of people from InStyle and some of our other brands came to that. I've never seen them so excited and energized. It was so fun to watch the way that these mostly females reacted to that cast. Also, it just happened to be October 3rd and Jonathan Bennett was at our offices. People were losing their minds.
Oh, yeah. I bet. My daughter, every time he comes up, will refer to him as Aaron.
Aaron Samuels.
Like he's Aaron every time.
He's such a dream human, truly.
He's so fun. We were lucky to sit down and talk with him about the show, about Finding Mr. Christmas. Was that during season? It was during season,
Yeah, it was
right?
before the finale.
I'm so generous with his time. The guy is the hardest working man on Hallmark, I think. Anyway, he's great.
He thrives on hard work.
Seems like it,
He
yeah.
really enjoys just doing all the things.
Let's bring it back to The Way Home and specifically the finale. What were your thoughts on this season and the finale in general?
I can't get over how incredible this season was. I loved season 2, so no shade to season 2, but this was much better than season 2. It maybe was even better than season 1, which is really hard to do overall. And a lot of times when you think back to shows, it's that first season that made it. There was so many creative choices and that it got so much more complex. You guys have talked about all of the like time travel stuff. Like my brain breaks a little bit sometimes when I start thinking about it, especially like Sadie pushing Sadie into the pond. That was bonkers.
Same.
But the way that this season went gave me so much faith in these creators that they have a plan, because so much went back to stuff from the first season that were things they clearly had thought, hey, if this works out, this may be a direction we're going to go. Let's plant this Easter egg now. There's no reason not to do it. Or they've studied what they did and found ways to work through those Easter eggs. But I'm blown away by it, the creativity. And I watch so much TV. That's literally part of my job. It is really difficult to surprise me. And this show surprises me week after week. That alone surprises me.
I think we share your opinion that this was such a great season. And for me, I still can't get over Colton talking to Alice and having the flash of Kat saying to him, I lost my dad and that gave me my greatest gift. And are you going to cry again?
Yes.
But it brings us back up. It's the perfect explanation. And we've had people, we do these listener mailbags and a lot of people are like, maybe this is going to be the way we get Colton back. I'm like, no, I love Colton. I love Jefferson Brown. I love how they've kept him involved, but we're not trying to bring him back. We're trying to deal with that. We're trying to reckon with how this affected their lives. And I have chills right now.
So do I.
I just think it's so well done. And to your point of, was that always their plan? Or was it like, we got this great line and it's so perfect? Either way, I cannot get over how full circle that scene was.
That's the scene of him telling Del, tomorrow I'm going to tell you everything. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He lived one more day.
I know. I think in a lot of people, we liked season 2 also. We really liked it. We liked
it.
Thomas and we liked Susanna, but not all The Way Home fans loved season 2. And so for me, this finale really brought it all together. It brought back the season 1, everything everybody loved about it. It answered so many questions. That's why I think it was so beautiful. And yeah, it's really set up well for a 4th season.
And so many spinoffs.
That I've been saying. I was like, oh my gosh.
I want the Evelyn spinoff so bad.
Oh my gosh.
Also,
please.
I need more Devin. Like, she needs to be on our screens doing 7,000 things. That girl is a star.
She's so cute. I love her so much.
I love her. Oh, I keep saying the same thing. Like, we cannot be done with her. I'm a little afraid there's not going to be enough Devin going forward because of all the other threads we're chasing.
Same. I'm worried about a lot. At least we're going to probably get some young Colton and Del, but I'm worried about, I love that 70s cast so much, both on screen and off screen, because I did a Facebook Live with all of them and I fell madly in love with them.
Yeah, it was great casting this year. So we have quite a few listener emails, comments. I just wanted to say for everybody listening, a lot of emails said our mailbag's going to continue. So just programming note, yes, for us on Girls Gone Hallmark, we'd love to continue mailbag episodes. We can only do it if the listeners are in on that. Like, we need your comments and questions and emails. Emails about the movies that are on. Email us your thoughts on our podcast. Email us Hallmark news, or you're like, I watched this old Hallmark. Anything. We will dive into your emails as often as you make that possible for us to do. So we're going to jump in with our first comment from Wayne, who says, my thoughts on the season finale, chef's kiss, highly emotional and the perfect way to put a button on the adult Colton storyline. Redemption for Kat, and maybe she won't annoy Francisco so much next season. And now we start a new mystery, the mystery of Elliot's mom and which Landry jumped in the pond with her. Was it Colton's brother? Is Sam Colton's brother? Was it Alice or Kat or Casey? I still think Nick is going to be a problem next season, but for now, we can relish in a great season finale.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I was surprised that there was no follow-up to Nick and Claire in the finale. Look, I get that we only have 45-ish minutes, but I was surprised because we've been saying like all season long, we're suspicious of Claire, who doesn't even exist on screen yet.
Yeah, who is she? Do you have thoughts on the Nick and Claire of it all?
Deep down, I just want Nick to be their pal and not have like much more to do for the rest of the series. He's lovely. They deserve to have some sort of friend that's not part of this, but he does know about it. But it is interesting to think about. We haven't met Claire. Could Claire be somehow involved in this? Is Claire going to wind up a Landry?
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Let me go
They've
ahead.
definitely left a little door open for paths.
Yeah, I wonder how many doors they're opening, and they're like, because they do need to plant some red herrings. They do need to have us chasing threads that go nowhere. And I just wonder, if you've listened to any episode, you know that I'm like, what about the horse? That's going to be one of those things are like, these people will chase anything. So just throw them a bone every once in a while and keep them talking.
Yeah, we always laugh. We always talk about how the writers are probably laughing their asses off at like fan reaction to things going, that's so not even something we are exploring, but have fun with that, guys.
Yeah, right.
All right, from Solene on Instagram. Gonna miss the Way Home listener mailbags, but glad you're keeping them going. Do we think that Elliot's mom jumped in the pond with Colton's brother? Colton mentions him at the wedding, and I'm pretty sure that it definitely wasn't random.
So many comments about Colton's brother jumping in the pond in our emails and about Sam being Colton's brother. I have no theories about Colton's brother. Breanne, do you have any thoughts on
I think
where we're
Colton's
going
brother
there?
is going to play a big role. I think that's not an accident. But I don't know that I think Sam is Colton's brother. It could be. At least that doesn't... Sometimes when I think about who could Sam be, it gets a little nasty. It can go in some not great directions.
Yeah, I agree. The Colton's brother, I agree. I think it'll be big. It's been referenced enough, especially at the wedding when he comments like about him not being there. I think it's significant. But the Sam, we got an email that said we have yet to see a character where we meet them in two different, like it's a different person in two different times. Because a lot of people were like, what if Claire is Susanna? What if Claire is Alice in the future? Which, no, thank you, by the way.
Ew.
Yeah, right? I agree. The whole thing about Sam being Colton's brother who would have... Again, Colton's not here, so Colton can't be like, whoa. Colton's never seen.
Yeah, but doesn't Dell know who Colton's brother is?
But he wasn't... I don't think he was there during that time. If he disappeared, I don't know. We don't know enough
Like
about...
she really have never met him over the course
There's no
of their whole
photo.
lives. And never seen a photo.
Yeah.
That's where I have a struggle with it.
Especially in a family that still has their 1814 almanac.
When I've seen some theories that Sam is Elliot, and I'm like, then he's not going to be macking on Dell.
No, we don't
No.
like any of that. It's
Mother.
gross.
There's so many theories that I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, no.
This is still Hallmark. It's not going to go there.
Agree.
Exactly.
Agree.
This is from Frances, who is clearly a super sleuth, because she says, I was right about Elliot being the baby and his mom jumping. Woohoo! Now to find out which Landry she jumped with, possibly Colton's older brother. And wow, Sam is a traveler. Is he Colton's older brother? So many new questions. Is Casey Jacob's child, or did she lie to Alice? I think Frances means they. Lie to Alice so they wouldn't know their future. Season 4 can't come soon enough. We're going to have to wait probably until next January, if history serves, on that one. I like the theory that Casey is Jacob's child, though. That is one of my leading theories, personally.
It's one of the ones that makes the most sense to me, too.
Yeah. Has it been one of your theories all season long, or were you bought into Casey being Alice's child?
I bought into Casey potentially being Alice's child, but then we were functioning like it was an assumed truth, and then I started rejecting that and thinking, Kat is not an only child, and just like Colton is not an only child, there is other family members, and they all would have Landry blood and be able to time travel.
A comment from Sylvester Glenn on YouTube says, I have thoughts and questions about Susanna's will and its implications. The Goodwins must have major hubris to have kept that will and not destroyed it. Evelyn obviously knew about the will and that all the Goodwin land was actually Landry land. Dell has felt this obligation to the Goodwins her whole adult life, and that she owes Evelyn in particular. I wonder if we'll see her processing that Evelyn knew about the will and that she, Dell, is not beholden to the Goodwins at all. Also, why would Evelyn include the will in the papers she left to the paper? This comment is long, so let's stop here. That is a lot to unpack. I love the idea of going back to Dell has felt this guilt. And if you throw it back to that 74 comment with Evelyn, she's, yeah, you do owe me one, Delilah. Her whole life, Dell's kind of been atoning for this. She's just carried this guilt. I stole your man, so now I just got to kowtow down to the Goodwins. We assume Evelyn knew because she had the papers, but we don't technically know for sure that she knew that she was on Landry land.
Yeah, I don't think she knew for sure.
You don't think she knew for sure?
I don't think we know for sure that she knows.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely have. Yeah.
But I do think she left those papers for Kat to find intentionally.
Yes.
I think so too.
The comment goes on, then there's Lewis. He didn't know about the will when he attacked Kat at the point, but he did when he offered Jacob the job. I disagree with this.
Yeah. How do we know that?
Also, it was last season that they backed off, that they were trying to take over the Landry land, and that they backed off. The confrontation at the point happens season 3. Lewis did know about the land because
Casey had already blackmailed him at that point. Yeah.
But I do think there is question about what are Lewis's intentions here, because we had talked about how Lewis comes in real hot at the point. He's angry, switches gears real quickly, offers Jacob a job, is so complimentary. What is he nefarious? Was he setting Jacob up in some way? Obviously, he is not Team Jacob at the end of this season.
Understandably.
Sure. But I feel like we don't know a lot about his motivation there.
No. I'm very confused about that character, in part because his last name is Goodwin.
Yes.
Yeah, that was never explained either, other than we had that comment or that conversation between Max and Alice, and Max telling Alice that Evelyn was in a terrible marriage and then took her last name, but we still don't know. Is Lewis a byproduct of that marriage? Or I don't know. Lots of questions.
Maybe Lewis was her child out of wedlock with someone else.
Right.
Reclaimed her name.
Yeah, it's super unclear.
We're going to need a Goodwin family tree.
We need multiple family trees.
100%.
I need a wall of red strings connecting all of these people.
This finale really made me need a crazy wall.
And a giant timeline when everything is happening. This comment goes on to say, Dell asked him being Lewis, why he had changed his stance so dramatically. He gives the excuse that he wants the founding families to work together. However, maybe it was a guilty conscience knowing that he was building his winery on Landry land, and giving Jacob a job was a way of absolving that guilty conscience. I can see the Landrys stating that they don't want Lingermore in the land. They're not very greedy by nature, but I hope they use the will for more than just a free get out of jail card. They are owed some compensation by the Goodwins, a share in the winery, some of the land. It will be interesting to see how acrimonious or amicable the Goodwin and Landry interactions play out. And what does this mean for Alice and Max? Casey may not be their child, but if they are a Landry and a Goodwin as they claim, then does this somehow get resolved in the future by marriage?
I so struggle with marrying off a 17 or 18-year-old. Dell got married super early. Kat got married super early.
Yep.
I hope for Alice she gets to go to college and sow her wild oats and not just hook up with these like 3 people.
I totally agree. She has not had a chance to be a child at all.
Oh my God, my brain here. You know how like a long running series like Beverly Hills 90210, how like they graduate high school, right? And then they all stay local. I was like, oh no, Alice can't just stay local. What are they going to do when it comes to her being done with high school? She's just going to go to
pursuing her music career.
Oh, maybe she won't go off to college. But then like
writers hear our cry. Do not make this an excuse to end at season 4.
The season takes place over the course of late summer to fall. We've never seen Christmas. I would love to see a way home Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Maybe
Christmas with the Landrys. Maybe we'll get a special.
Is that a reason why we don't see the colder months on this show? Because where they film it at, like you've visited the set.
Yeah, but they can fake it. They could fake Christmas in July. They do it on the Hallmark all the time.
Almost every movie.
Yeah, that would be why they wouldn't film in that time, but they could certainly set it during that time.
When do they usually film the show? Is it during summertime?
When was I down there or up there? Like late fall?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's warm when they're jumping in the pond in the early episodes and cold when they're jumping in the pond in the later episodes.
Now, what was really interesting, someone posted a behind-the-scenes shot of, is the pond an actual outdoor space?
Yes.
So they jump.
But I did not get to go to see it, sadly.
But they jump into that outdoor space, and then they film all of the pond scenes on basically a pool set.
Yeah, a lot of the underwater there's like a pool set. But there is an actual pond that they jump into. And that does not have lily pads, despite the key art.
Oh.
There's your inside info.
Oh. From Nate and Heather on YouTube, I think we're going to the 1920s next season. Kat will hang out with a younger Fern. I think Alice will go to the 1980s and maybe babysit her mom and Elliot. LOL. Ooh.
That would be really weird.
That's funny that this person brings up the 1920s. I was thinking 1920s as well. And I don't know why, but it has something to do with the kitty cat nickname.
Yeah, but it's also when the book is put in the walls of Elliot's house.
Oh,
That's when the house is built and the book has to be placed there. So perhaps everyone's wondering, where is Elliot's mom's origin story going to take us? Because I think it's very clear we're going to do a lot with that, hopefully, next season. So
where would you like to see them go next year?
20s would be fun. But I also think there's more 1965 to come based on Fern's
I agree. I think we're getting more 65. I also feel like Alice can't spend too much more time with Dell.
Yeah.
Or Dell's going to recognize her at some point. Dell's just
it's
going to
become
loony.
Yeah, Alice can't be there with like baby Elliot and Kat, and Dell still doesn't recognize this person who was at 3 different time points in her life. Yeah. Also, Colton would be there in that 1980 time period, and it wouldn't stand to reason because he basically stated, like, I knew you in the 70s and you're my daughter's friend. He would have also remembered her if she was there.
If they were in the 80s together.
If she was there when Kat was a baby.
All right, from Rayleigh's Hero on YouTube, here's my last theory for season 4. Last 2 episodes was heavy on Elliot. In season 4, we will learn more about his family. Season 1 and 2 was about the Landry family. Season 3, Goodwin family. Season 4, the Augustine family. Also, I think Elliot's mom jumped with Colton's brother. Kat will go back to the 1920s, and she will run into young Grandma Fern. In her riddle, she mentioned 65 and 25. Also, Elliot said the house was built in the 1920s.
This Colton's brother thing is going to be one of those things that we just start accepting as canon, like the clock being responsible for a future time travel because so many people have said it, and then we're going to be way off.
I want no future time travel. Let me just say it.
Really?
I want us only to be going backwards. I like that rule. It gets too messy.
What were your thoughts on Thomas?
But hold on. But I did like the theory that someone could jump to the future in a return trip with someone.
Hold on, I'm working this out in my brain.
So like if Alice jumped with Casey, she could jump to wherever Casey is from.
But
Alice can't jump to the future by herself.
Okay.
That's my hope for that. I really don't want them to actively be able to start jumping into the future. Gets too messy.
I don't disagree with you. Okay, I need to know your thoughts on Thomas, though.
Thomas is dreamy. I know you guys have talked about doing a spin-off with Thomas. I'm into it.
I think it.
Hallmark needs to use Chris Holden-Reed for about 16 more things.
Right?
Because the fans demand it.
Yes.
Me being among them.
Us too.
He is so wonderfully swarthy. It's the best word I can think of for him.
That's the word my dad likes. That's funny.
But that's the word for him. He's just swarthy. Like it's sexy and masculine and looks like he doesn't necessarily smell very good, but not in a bad way.
Love it.
I think that's why we wanted future time travel to happen so badly, because we were like, we want Thomas in 99 or in present day or whatever, because we love him so much. We love his character so much. But I agree it could be super messy.
I also do think as much as we love these characters from these other eras, there's a point at which we have to accept that we're not seeing them again.
Yeah. Like
I don't want to either, clearly.
And my biggest fear is that we may be done with Jefferson Brown. We can't add any more because he knew everything. Upon his death, it wouldn't make sense to add in all these other experiences with Kat and Alice and him, unless we're getting memories. He can come back in memory.
Like they did in season 2. He was more in memory form.
Yeah, we got a lot of Ghost Colton.
Yeah.
But that is my fear, that maybe we've said goodnight to him, which is a shame. So Jefferson Brown in Countdown to Christmas, please, Hallmark.
Yeah, why is he not being used on Hallmark as much either? Love him as well. This is from Nola KLG on YouTube. When Sam is on the phone with Del in that almost last scene of the show, he says the exact same thing Elliot says standing in the exact same place in episode 1 of the series. When asked, how do you know that it will be all right? He says, I just do. I think Sam is to Casey what Elliot is to Alice. That sounds like an SAT question. What? Okay, so I am beginning to think that it is Jacob and Elliot's mom that jumps. Meanwhile, they have left Casey at the pond to take Elliot to the Landrys. In other words, they have not left the baby, Elliot, without care. This is Megan's biggest fear all season long.
On the banks of
She's worried about the baby in the water, the baby alone on the pond. So I think this right
Not
under
great parenting.
So someone has to worry about the baby.
Just letting you know it's going to be all okay. Yeah. Finally, to wrap it up, she says, and that is where Jacob has gone at the end. I can't figure out why Elliot's mom would leave her child to endure, as Elliot himself puts it, a very dark childhood. Next season answer, question mark.
What do we think about Sam being Casey's Elliot?
It's not a bad theory. I talked to Heather and Alex, and they were very intentional about putting Sam in that exact same position and mirroring the dialogue from season 1 with Elliot.
Look at that. Insider information here.
Yeah, because the question is, has Sam ever time traveled, or does he simply exist in his own current time like Elliot does?
But Elliot has time traveled.
Yeah, but only not regularly. I would not call Elliot a time traveler. Elliot's
time travel adjacent.
Perhaps Sam has time traveled once or twice, and then he is a person that Casey also knows in the future. So he can help them put their experiences together.
I also just keep going back to the change of, we were spelling Casey, Casey, and now it's KC, which
and what does it stand
for?
for?
Its initials. and that maybe the C is coil.
Yeah, we had theorized that earlier this season of what Casey could stand for.
Yeah, Catherine Coyle or Cassandra Coyle.
There were a couple of
Cassandra
good ones.
with a K, probably.
Catherine, Cassandra, we thought too.
Yeah, I don't know. An email from Mandy who says, here are my teenage daughters and I theories about next season. Elliot's mom's story parallels Kat with Thomas, except she chose love, she being Elliot's mom. She was young, a dreamer, etc. We think she jumped to get away from Vic and start a new life. Who did she jump with? Option 1 is Colton's brother, who was mentioned several times this season, but never appears. Young Colton specifically mentioned that his brother wasn't at the wedding. Was he busy time traveling? Option 2 is Jacob. It seems like the age gap between them might be too much. He is in his young 30s and she would be young 20s, but maybe Jacob's most recent jump takes him to this time, early 1980s rather than the 1800s. It seems like a good new season storyline for Jacob to move on to a new adventure and, per Hallmark, a romance.
Stop there. Yeah, I don't need Jacob to be going back to the 1800s anymore. While I love that time period, but he doesn't need to keep going back there. So if we move him into the 80s to help Elliot's mom, I think is interesting.
Especially if he's like, I need to fix things. Although,
what's he fixing there?
Did he jump to the 80s and now he's helping Elliot's mom? I don't know.
But I do think he needs to fix himself a little bit before he's fully ready for romance. Though,
Yes,
100%.
Though I do think the next season we are going to get some sort of Jacob romance because they've given everyone else love.
I agree. If Elliot's mom is responsible for the inscription on the clock, then maybe she traveled to the 1920s and ended up living the rest of her life there. The point of the clock has always been to give Elliot clues about his mom and where she is in time. This is all going to open up a new era for Alice and Kat and Elliot, I'm sure, to travel to, and a new portion of Landry, Goodwin, Augustine lore that we don't know about yet. A crazy theory is that the timeline would actually work for Elliot's mom to be Fern. Elliot's mom is a dreamer who loves poetry, as is Fern, but that would only be plausible if she wasn't genetically Colton's grandmother, because then Kat and Elliot would technically be related, and she does officially call Colton her grandson this season.
Heather and Alex also confirmed that nothing's going to go in that direction. They wouldn't even say the I word.
I can't even begin.
Just no, they are not going to any of those places.
Yes, no, I am not on board.
If your theory leads in
Here are
that
the things I'm
direction,
not on
you can
board.
cross it out.
Yeah. I'm not on board with Nick's current fiance being future Alice, and I am not on board with Fern being Elliot's mother, even in a related by marriage sort of way.
No.
Regardless, I believe we will get Fern's backstory next season. Fern says to Kat that she used to like being called Kitty Cat, so how long before that did Fern interact with Kat? Kat could have visited her any number of times, any number of years pre-1974. Also, is Fern a time traveler herself? Is she a Landry? My daughter swears she is present in the crowd of villagers in the 1816 eclipse scene because the camera focuses on a specific older woman whose face looks like Fern.
Oh.
One more thing. When the girl is putting the note with the baby in the basket, she tucks a small cloth/blanket into her jacket, only seen the first time in season 3, episode 1. I'm guessing we'll see this item again and will give us a clue about Elliot's mom. Thanks for your email, Mandy.
Speaking of the note, another thing Alex and Heather said that was one of my biggest takeaways from my conversation with them after watching the finale was that, yes, confirmed that the same note that Elliot receives from Vic is the note that is tucked into the basket, but perhaps not the entire note.
Oh. Ooh.
Wow.
I know. That shook me too. So what is Vic holding back? We've got an email from Paula who says, my big question about Elliot now is Vic really his father? He is so much younger than his mother, and I don't see him hooking up with a T.S. Eliot groupie. I think it was definitely his mother jumping in the pond, the long-haired girl to the left. I wonder if the other one in the hoodie was the actual father. There has to be something big to make her abandon him. There's a lot of loose ends to the Augustines. I'm guessing that's next season's focus. So this was something that I specifically also asked Alex and Heather. Vic is definitely Elliot's father. And one of the people who jumps into that pond has to be a Landry, which means that the man jumping in, if that is Elliot's mom, the man holding her hand has to be a Landry and is therefore not Elliot's father because, again, ixnay on the incest.
Yes. Yeah, so it's
Not happening.
It's got to be a man. So it's our options here are Colton's brother or Jacob
Or
third unknown person.
we never met. In all the time we spent in the 70s, we didn't meet any other of the Landrys other than Fern.
Which I think is odd.
Colton's
And
parents.
it comes down to like his mom is referenced so many times that we never meet her. Is that just like there's too many characters, it's too expensive, we can't have all of these people, so they're just going to exist off screen? Or is there something more significant to that?
I think that depends on how many seasons we get.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
To continue Paula's great message about traveling to the future, even if Casey is from the future, no one has traveled to the future yet. If she is from the future, she's traveling to her past. No one is traveling back with her. I'm hoping their only role here was as a messenger. Even though I hope we're done with 18 whatever, Jacob is the only time traveler to live most of his life in a past time. Which is a good point, as far as we know.
Yes. I was thinking the exact same.
Well, as far as we
I at first thought Danny typed the letters, but then I remembered he worked for the Goodwins. I never followed up on episode 9 and my Brewster comment. He was a character that kept popping up to move the plot along, but seemed like he should be more involved. Paula suggested in the last episode that the girl with the T.S. Eliot poem was like Brewster.
from the Chicken Sisters.
Oh,
Yeah, Gruster is the Sabrina love interest on the Chicken Sisters. I'm like, what,
right.
what-
I
what
loved
does Gruster have-
Gruster. Oh,
Yeah, we did too.
Like, what does this have to do with?
Yeah, we were like,
But-
what does this have to do? Did you clock, I'm certain, the typewriter in the finale?
I did. I don't want Danny to be a bad guy.
Neither.
Danny, if I really break it down, unless Danny did something, but again, he was a little kid when Jacob went into the pond. Even if Danny was at fault for that, whether or not he was at fault for that, he grew up living and believing that he had something to do with it. And that is so much for a kid. That would really mess you up. And then this kid comes back, initially absolves you. Danny needs to be a good guy.
I think so,
Danny's had a
too.
hard life having to live with being the last person to see Jacob as a child.
Yeah, I don't want Danny to be a bad guy. But I will tell you that scene where you see the typewriter, and we got a bunch of messages of people who didn't even notice it. Megan told me about it upon first watch, and I was like, what? The typewriter is sitting there? Oh my God. It was shot
I
so
almost
beautifully.
want it to be like Danny's handy and someone had given him the typewriter to repair, like he was holding on to
I
it for
love that
somebody.
theory. Yes. Yes.
And we'll learn that
Look,
Danny
it
is.
can't possibly be the only typewriter in Port Haven.
Of course, this is a town that loves its history. Our next email is from Michelle A., who says, I don't have friends that watch the show, so I had a few thoughts I wanted to share regarding the finale. Firstly, Casey reminds me of Fern calling Cat Kitty Cat. That's a thought you had before. Does Casey stand for Kitty Cat? Speaking of Fern, looks like Cat is going to 1965 next season. So we know that Casey is not Alice's child, which means that there are only two possibilities in mind. They are Jacob's child, hence Alice's cousin. Alice and Casey have more of a peer interaction than someone looking at their mother or grandmother. They had a scene with Jacob for a deliberate reason. Number two, they are a future descendant, but they don't look at Alice in the same way they look at Kat. I also thought Casey might be an unborn child of Kat and Elliot because the Casey-Alice interaction was also giving sibling vibes. Unless Elliot is a secret Goodwin, then it's not the case. Casey confirmed that they don't answer. They deflect but you are a Landry and a Goodwin. So we don't have confirmation on that. They say, I think some things are better left unknown. Yes?
Fascinating. I can't believe we're going to have to wait like a whole year.
Yeah.
One more comment. This The Evie actress was too old for the character. She was 18 in 1974, making her 43 in 1999. She looked more like she was 55. I think they just styled her old.
I think they answered that themselves. They styled her a little old.
Yep.
Also, I think she looked the same age as Jefferson.
She looked the same age as Jefferson. And also the way my mom looked at my age, we envisioned that as looking older. Like the hairstyle was different. So I think we're looking at a accurate representation of what a woman in her 40s in the year 2000 might have dressed and styled themselves.
I think so too. Email from Laura. At Colton's wedding, he mentioned his brother was a no-show. I think that is who jumped in the pond with Elliot's mother, Colton's brother. That may be the reason Vic hated the Landrys. But confused, how did Elliot's dad get Susanna's ring? Susanna was an Augustine who married a Goodwin, which makes her Evelyn's grandmother, probably step-grandmother. Did she give the ring to her brother or nephew?
This just made my brain flip.
And I'm like, time out. Let's rewind this.
Okay, that isn't the reason Vic hates the Landrys, because Vic hated the Landrys as a child. The Landrys and the Augustines they've always hated each other. Vic was nasty as a child.
He was awful.
He was born nasty. How did Elliot's dad get Susanna's ring? It was the mother's ring. No, Vic is the Augustine. Oh my gosh. Are we missing something here? No, right?
Elliot's mother received the ring from Vic.
Yeah, no,
and she left it for him.
But yes, I think Elliot's mother received the ring from Vic, but the question is, how did Susanna had it? How did it get to Vic? Passed down through the Augustine line.
I mean, there must be another Augustine because
in 200
Susanna
years.
must have had a sibling, a male sibling.
Because we don't know that
the
Susanna
Augustine name
continued
sticks.
the Augustine line.
Yeah, that we don't know.
Yeah, how does the Augustine line continue? We do not know that.
They must have some kind of crazy wall up in the studios that they did not let me see.
I was just thinking that too. I was like, I wonder what their war room looks
snooped.
like.
I peeked into offices that had the doors open.
Yeah, they must have to reference and be like, okay, does this make sense before we write this? Yeah, who did we say that they were?
Woo. All right, we've got an email from Amy. Any scene with Jefferson Brown is golden. Amen, sister. Alice and Colton are the best characters in this show, in my opinion. I don't totally agree, but I love all the characters. Not necessarily equally, but I love them all. 2, if the showrunners are not planning on future time travel, I think they're missing out on some great potential. Remember that Hallmark movie, A Biltmore Christmas? I keep thinking the clock was the key to future time travel, like the hourglass was in that movie. I was so hoping that any age Colton or Susanna as Claire would show up in the present. What a WTF moment it would have been for Thomas to come strolling out of the woods. We assume it's 1816 until he comes upon the blue pickup. Even if he wasn't Endgame. I feel like we missed out on seeing him react to airplanes and the iPhone and challenging Elliot to a duel. Amy, I really appreciate your creativity here and that you've got stage directions and everything. This is Amy's season 4 wish list. She wants a reunion between 1999 Colton and current day Dell. A reunion between 1999 Colton and current day Jacob. If we can't get any more Thomas, how about the same actor plays a current day relative who happens to look very much like him? Maybe he's the guy that Sam was trying to keep in jail. Ooh. Forgot about the guy Sam was trying to keep in jail. There might be something to that. I hope Kat goes to the 1920s to meet Fern. Jacob needs a love interest. And Amy is joining Team Francisco. All over the map, Kat is really starting to grate. I know they needed to put a bow on everything in case the show was canceled, but that insta reconciliation with Elliot was a bit anticlimactic, borderline lame. I think they both need a timeout and some therapy. Girl, they definitely need some therapy, both of them, but especially Kat.
100%. I do think that Kat and Elliot are meant to end up together, but I would have loved Kat being like, I love you, and I'm not going to look for someone else, but I need 5 minutes to process the last couple years of my life.
Seriously.
And I need to not do it alongside building our relationship with you.
I'm with you. When she looked at that ring and reacted like, are you proposing? I was like, he better not. No way. That would be a very bad move. Do not do that.
Yeah, we're not ready for this. I love Elliot. 100%. I love Evan Williams. I'm all in.
I like that you have to say that. Our listeners think that we hate Elliot, which is not true.
And they also think we hate Thomas. It's quite the kerfuffle.
Yes. It's been a crazy
I love
season.
them. I agree that Kat and Elliot are endgame, but I don't need endgame to be right now. And I'm with you. They both need a minute.
It took 10 seasons for Ross and Rachel to finally end up together for good. Just give them a minute. Lynn emails and says, what a season finale. Sadie and Jefferson were amazing. Those scenes had us crying. I loved seeing Colton figuring it out. I think they did a great job with the back and forth. I was not confused at all when they were. Great editing and directing. Lynn, your brain works faster than mine does. After listening to your podcast, here are a few thoughts. They showed Colton finding young Jacob at the pond after their campout, and Jacob informed him that he has done this before. That's why he had the stern warning, but would also lead one to think that Jacob may have jumped in the pond when he went missing. Yes, it is wild to me that Colton never assumed that's where he went. Alice thanks Casey because they provided her the relief that Alice's future is not known. Casey seems genuinely surprised that Alice thought that she was their mother. And I'm going to accept that as true. Who are Casey's parents? Jacob? Kat and Elliot? She's not too old? ? Despite seeing this typewriter, I don't understand why Danny would hurt Dell, especially seeing him tell Jacob that he was hurting her. And another whip-smart writer-inner says, Sam is to Casey as Elliot has been to Alice. Time traveler keepers. Ooh, time traveler keepers. I love that.
Oh, I like
Love
that. It's like Giles.
Yes, from Buffy. Yeah.
Someone to keep everybody in line and make sure that they're not breaking anything.
Yeah, I know another writer-inner had mentioned that earlier, but I like the kind of explanation time traveler keeper.
Yep.
Makes it make sense. Yeah. Okay. Email from Francisco. For reference, Breanne, Francisco doesn't really like Kat this season and
I'm aware.
Okay.
And he's brought several other listeners over to his team.
So he writes, first, I have to say I smiled so big when someone said they were Team Francisco. Me and Jessica must have had a mind meld on our thoughts on Kat in episode 9. Shout out to Jessica. Look, we're just a conduit for
Making connections over here.
I thought Kat really redeemed herself in this episode regarding being present in the present. I'm a fan of her and Elliot, so was glad to see they both came to a very adult realization regarding their history and how to best go forward. You said Kat should have taken some time. Yes, we just talked about it. She should have taken some time, but I think the showrunners wanted to show us that they were happy despite it being a rushed feeling, such as having 10 episodes. Kat is still the worst time traveler, LOL. You didn't think I'd give her a total pass, did you? She hardly hid, but Fern's comments are still intriguing since she seemed more coherent here. Any thoughts on that?
I think this is Kat's redemption episode, very much.
I agree.
Kat was messy this season. But
it's okay though, because life's messy, right?
I agree. I think it was necessary for us to have all these like time traveling foibles to realize stuff goes wrong sometimes.
Yeah. I think some of it too is I always forgive Kat, and because I always have in the back of my mind that this woman is living with this feeling that she caused her father's death, and which ultimately caused all this pain for her mother. And yes, on the positive side, it led to Alice, but she is blaming herself for so many things that have gone wrong in her life and her family's lives. And this was the episode that kind of freed her from that. So it was a beautiful scene between her and Elliot, because I think there was, as Francisco even recognizes, that they were finally being present. And Kat is she is seeing that her dad knows that she's part of why he died and still loved her.
Yeah, that was a heavy scene. And I can understand Kat's motivation of, I caused my father's death, so now here's all these other problems that I'm coming behind. Maybe I can be a part of solving them. And then she makes more of that.
Which is, in truth, relatable.
But I think she needed to learn that lesson. I think she needed to learn. She wanted to understand her father's death. In doing that, she realized she caused it. And now we're moving on to, it's not just your father. Sometimes trying to fix things makes them worse. I think she needed to learn these lessons in a hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Francisco goes on. He says, Alice was the MVP of this season, but this episode was a mix of being super emotional and a little confusing. I was so sad when Colton came to the realization he died, and I agree with you guys in that it's not about preventing it, but accepting it almost and taking away what those experience with that person, in this case Colton, taught you. It was a touching scene that I'm glad both had. Also, these Colton scenes in the episode did what needed to be done, reconciling season 1 to now. I agree. It was done so well.
Mm-hmm. So good.
He goes on to say, I can't feel bad for Jacob, really. He took advantage of Danny and now gets a free pass. Does Danny get his job back? I felt bad for Danny. We had talked about it too. Oh, Jacob's stealing his passcode and Danny's going to take the fall for this. And why Danny? Poor
Jacob
Danny.
does need therapy to process. I don't know how you go to time traveler therapy, but he needs to process what's going on and figure out how he can do this without ruining everyone else's life.
Yeah. He is messy.
He finishes his email. He says, overall, I think the emotional beats of the episode were important, and I really can't complain about the lack of answers. The scenes with Alice and Colton were worth their weight in gold. As much as I hate to wait, I guess that's what we'll have to do.
Gonna be a rough wait. Email from Lindsay. Whew, what a finale. I can't remember what all we know about Colton's brother, just that he previously disappeared, right? In the wedding scene, Colton said he expected his brother to be a no-show. We have to assume his brother is a time traveler, right? I think so. That's my 2 cents. Mm-hmm. Could he have been the one that jumped with Elliot's mom since she needed a Landry to time travel? Also, if future travel is possible, could Sam be Colton's brother? Mind blown. Very well could be. I don't know how I feel about Colton's brother macking on his wife, but...
Yeah, I don't like it. Nope.
But it's okay from a lineage standpoint.
Yes. It's not genetically problematic.
Question about Susanna's will. Casey said it will help stop Dell's letters. How? Thank you, Lindsay. I don't know either. I'm very confused about it as well. I'm confused what that has to do with Danny writing the letters, unless that's what they want us to think. That's definitely one big mystery that will hopefully be answered in season 4. What do you guys think? Do you have an idea of how the will stops the letters?
Okay, that was my one real quibble with this season finale, is that scene with Casey and Jacob I felt was super rushed. I needed to watch it twice to even understand what was happening. How could the will have anything to do with the letters? I don't know. Did you feel like, and we talked about this too, did you feel like they had filmed 2 separate endings for this show just in case it wasn't renewed?
No.
Okay.
I don't think they did. Because they finished a while ago. Like, they finished before it premiered.
Right. That's my question, is they finished before they would have had renewal information too. So
I think I got the locked cut before the renewal announcement.
Oh, yeah.
And I was driving them
so did
crazy
we.
about the renewal. And so they definitely didn't know yet a few days before it was announced.
Breanne, let me ask you this question. Since you probably have insider information in terms of ratings, maybe you don't.
We can cut this out too.
Well, we could totally cut this out because there's been a ton of conversation from viewers saying that the ratings were lower this season, like a viewership. And we have long said, like, how can you even know? This show is on Hallmark, streams the next day, it's on Peacock, it's all over the place, right? Do you know anything about
I think dropping on Fridays is a challenge.
Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
I will be surprised if it doesn't go back to Sundays when it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know why they wouldn't just do a block. Really, like, blow out Sundays and do a block.
Wind Calls the Heart
But
with The Way
also,
Home.
The on the plus side for The Way Home being on Fridays was like the last 2 months has been nonstop major things happening on Sundays. Super Bowl and the SNL 50th and all of the awards shows, that it was like, why would you force yourself to compete against that? And granted, now it's like White Lotus and Sundays are tough anyway, but I get why Sundays is a good night for Hallmark. I think, yeah, again, I think it'll go back to Sundays if I were a betting woman, which I'm not really, but That would be my guess. I imagine that the views on Peacock are probably pretty steady from what they've been, if not up, because at least from where I'm sitting, and it's always hard to gauge, but I feel like more people are watching. I'm seeing more engagement. I know you guys have said you're seeing more engagement.
Yeah.
Huge.
When we do stories, we're getting way more engagement, way more traffic than we were for season 2. So that has to, either the fans are just getting more active, which is certainly possible, but I think that also means that there are more of them.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see it continue to increase. This season was really exceptional, and this finale has been really buzzy. People are going to find it. I hope. I wish. I want. It seems like people are finding it.
Yeah, we've gotten some emails recently that are like, I don't watch Hallmark movies, but we do watch The Way Home. And I think a big push to drive people to this show who are not Hallmark, because I think there's something to be said for the fact that it's on Hallmark, giving people an idea of what it's going to be, a preconceived notion of what this show is going to be. And we keep saying, we have a Patreon podcast and we do a pop culture episode, and we're like, look, if you don't like Hallmark, you need to be watching The Way Home. The Way Home is a Netflix level series. Yes, it's clean and family friendly and all of those things, and you can watch it with.
There was that spilt milk scene in episode 3 or 4. It was pretty spicy.
Look, yes, Kat was climbing on top of Elliot at multiple points during this season. But my point is, like, the push to get viewers outside of Hallmark, I think, is what this show needs. I think it is one of the best things I watch all year long.
I agree. I would be so curious to see what would happen to the show, even if only season 1 popped up on Netflix. I think you'd see the show explode.
I think so too. It's so funny you
and
say that.
Historically, I don't want it to move all the way, so this isn't the best comparison, but the Penn Badgley show launched on Lifetime. Nobody paid any attention to it for 2 seasons. Then it got saved by Netflix, became one of the biggest shows ever, and no one ever thinks of it as a Lifetime show. And ditto, Cobra Kai was YouTube Red.
Yes,
we watched it.
I am a
YouTube
diehard crazy Cobra Kai fan, like the way I am about The Way Home is the way I am about Cobra Kai.
It's the same thing with, don't laugh, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders show, which we watched every single freaking season on CMT, but we were the only ones. And then it comes to Netflix and everyone was like, have you seen this? I'm like, yeah, for 24 seasons.
Yeah.
And it's this huge hit. So yes, I
was a Suits girl from the jump, and then
Me too. From watching it weekly airing before Meghan Markle was a princess or a duchess. Yes. Yes. Me too.
So I'm curious. I think I'd be really interested to see if they put some investment behind trying to broaden the audience over the course of the next year and let people like open it up in spaces where people can find it. And I actually think then people will, it's so good that people will sign up for Hallmark Plus to watch it.
Hope so.
And then maybe they'll discover something else.
All right. Our next email from Aaron says, when Jacob came out of the water after Colton found him, he told his dad that he had done it before. If so, did that take him somewhere in time? Did adult Jacob have any recollection of that? My guess is no. Do you guys, yes or no, that Jacob had actually time traveled before? Baby Jacob?
No.
He just swam in the pond before because he's a kid. When Fern says 65, there they thrive. 65 and 25. Is she referring to Jacob jumping to 1965? What if Jacob jumped and he wound up in 1965? Kat will try to go after him again and winds up in 1965 again, thus getting her kitty cat nickname from Grandma Fern. If Elliot's mom jumped and wound up in 1965, could she have started a new life then, having a child in or around 1965? Could that child be Sam Bishop? Is that how Sam knows about the pond/time travel? That would put him around 60 years old.
So that would make Sam and Elliot brothers?
Yes, which I don't think is a theory I hate.
I don't hate it. And that's the first time I've heard that. So kudos to Aaron.
Yeah, and it doesn't not make sense. I've also noticed that Colton has 2 nicknames for his grandmother and Grandma Fern. Is it possible that it's 2 different people? The one at the pond is grandmother and the kooky lady is Grandma Fern? I say no.
Yeah, I say no. Granted, he presumably has 2 grandmothers, at least.
Yeah. Both who know about time travel?
That would be wild.
We also never get the "Who are you" line from Jacob to Casey that we saw in the preview episode. Cut for time.
Ooh.
I wonder if Jasper knows more than he's letting on about Colton's brother when he referred to his demo as a fly in amber, capturing a moment in time, a pretty important one. It felt more poignant than him just giving a copy of his demo. If Jacob does play a role in 1965, I wonder if Jasper plays a role then as well. Did he know Kat before he picked her up on the side of the road in episode 2?
Ooh.
Hey, where do you stand on that viewer on the cliff in 1816 being Jasper? Yay or nay?
Nay.
Really? Who do you think he was? Just some crony?
Just a
Yeah.
Cyrus henchman?
Yep. Just a Cyrus henchman. I tend to think that the eagle-eyed people who are screenshotting and blowing it up and saying, that kind of looks like so-and-so in a group scene or hidden in a scene is not that person. There's a practical standpoint on that. They don't want to pay that actor for that day unless it's like deeply important. And if it were deeply important, we wouldn't be wondering if it was them. We'd be sure.
Hey, I like it.
That makes sense. We say always like we're so easily influenced. So
I don't actually think Fern. I mean, I would want to go back and see, because if they did zero in on that older woman in the 1816 riot that someone said looked like Fern, like maybe depends on how much they zeroed in on her. It was very clear that the young girl with the T.S. Eliot poem was gonna be somebody.
Yes.
That was not a throwaway. That scene wouldn't have existed without that. And I feel like they actually do try to be a little more overt than that.
Yeah.
I don't know. The typewriter at Danny's was more overt than this.
Yeah. Aaron goes on to say, where is Colton's mom for the wedding?
And
Great
dad.
question. Yeah. Who's never referenced at all, really, in this season. I do think my theory about the family lore on the one still holds true. We will see if in season 4 if it's true.
oh, tell Breanne about that.
Oh, is this the Dewan?
Dewan,
I
yeah.
know that.
Typewriter on Danny's desk seemed a little too obvious for him to be writing the letters. Casey did say that the letters should stop with the information of the will, so it's likely someone connected with the Goodwins, in which case, if we go back to the theory that Danny's just like repairing it, it stands to reason that Lewis could be like, Danny, you're handy. Can you fix this typewriter for me?
Yeah, for sure.
We never heard or found out what secret Dell was keeping from Jacob and Kat, unless it was the letters themselves, because it was Colton referencing the secret in her daydream. I'd assume it's something he would have been aware of prior to 2000. Yeah, he's like, you got to tell him, Dell. What's he talking about?
It's right. All season long, he was in her memories or daydreams or whatever, telling her, you have to tell the kids. You have to tell the kids. Tell them what? The letters?
I think it was about the letters.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read it as about the letters. I've got an email from Lance who says, I have lots of thoughts and theories about season 4, of course, but I wanted to mention a couple this time. Is it just me, or did Casey seem more mature and more fun in the season 3 finale? I loved their confident personality in all of these interactions, especially with Jacob. They're definitely more confident in these later season 3 scenes than they were in season 2. I have a couple theories. One, they were intentionally playing a more shy, quiet personality at the beginning so they didn't raise any suspicions among the folks in the time they were visiting. 2, this is an older version of Casey in the season 3 finale who is jumping from a later point in their own timeline, and someone who has had the time to mature and develop more confidence in their role in this timey-wimey world. And Lance says, I prefer explanation 2 and sincerely hope Casey is a major part of season 4. Me too, because I want some answers. And then Lance adds, I may be wrong, but I'm assuming the creators want us all to think Sam is Colton's older brother. Whether that is actually true or not, I agree. I think they want us to think that. And maybe he is, and maybe he is not. And I think we're going to find out he's not because they want us to think that. But that's how my mind works. And Lance also says, one reason I really want it to be true is so we get a scene where Dell realizes she has been knocking boots with both of the Colton brothers. Thank you, Lance, for saying knocking boots. I've been shaming myself for saying macking. So I feel like we are connected. And then he says, Grandma Skinny Dipper needs to celebrate her wild side.
I love it, Lance.
Lance, how come no one is skinny dipping in this pond? Really, it is in a private space. Nobody's there.
Can't be more uncomfortable than jumping in your
I mean, I
plane.
guess it means wherever you land in time, you're going to
We did good.
Yeah. No,
You know,
thank you.
a Daryl Hannah splash moment.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, funny.
Yeah, for me, the Casey maturing, when we first met Casey, we are to presume new to time traveling. People didn't know who they were. Now she knocks on the door and she's, aren't you Landry's used to time traveler? They knock on the door and say, aren't you Landry's used to time travelers? There's no pretense. Everyone knows Casey is time traveling. They don't know where, they don't know their relation or when they're from, but at least we've got that little bit so they don't have to pretend to be someone else.
Yeah, I think I prefer that.
Yeah, me too. Back to Sam potentially being Elliot's older brother. I also that if Sam and Elliot are playing parallel roles to Alice and Casey, if the Augustines are the keeper of the pond and the keeper of the time travelers, I really love that theory.
It makes me wonder if Vic ever finds out.
Oh.
And maybe that's part of why he's still so salty about the Landrys, because it all feels like weird generational trauma. Like, why are you so mad?
And also, it is then a little bit weird that Kat and Del are dating brothers. Not genetically weird, just odd.
I like it better even than Del knocking boots with both of the brothers.
Yeah, with both Landry brothers.
I
No, not
so
Landry,
love that they
Augustine
have
brothers.
Del like making out in the little
Colton Landry and
clubhouse.
Holton.
Oh, yeah,
Brother
my bad, my bad. Right. Too many.
All right. Before we wrap it up, do you have any final thoughts on this season of The Way Home, Breanne?
I'm just so impressed with the way that this show has developed. And I'm so relieved we're getting a 4th season. I hope we'll get a 5th season because I actually think there's still too much to wrap up in one
Agree.
season. I don't anticipate they're going to add episodes. I'm sorry to say. I think 10 is going to be what we get. But thank you so much for having me join you. I'm so impressed by the community that you guys have created, not just around this show, but in general, and seeing how active it is with these letters. I've seen them on Facebook. I've seen it on YouTube. It really is something special. And seeing people like Francesco who come back week after week, that's really special and cool. So congratulations to you both.
Thank you. That's so nice.
So much. Breanne, where can people keep up with you after this episode?
I am at Breanne NYC on all of the social media platforms.
Excellent. We will link that in the show notes. Thank you for being here in this monster of an episode, taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you for I needed to hash this out with some people.
I'm so glad it worked out. Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. We'll be back with more Hallmark reviews next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.
The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power and advanced Audi tech. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's milk chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's milk chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's milk chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's milk chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's Milk Chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's Milk Chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold. We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's Milk Chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's Milk Chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's Milk Chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.
For more than 50 years, National University has been a military-friendly, yellow-ribbon school that understands the importance of honor and commitment. With 4 and 8-week classes available, year-round enrollment, and more than 190 programs to choose from, we help veterans just like you define the next chapter of their careers. Learn more at nu.edu. That's nu.edu.
We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's Milk Chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's Milk Chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's Milk Chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.
For more than 50 years, National University has been a military-friendly, yellow-ribbon school that understands the importance of honor and commitment. With 4 and 8-week classes available, year-round enrollment, and more than 190 programs to choose from, we help veterans just like you define the next chapter of their careers. Learn more at nu.edu. That's nu.edu.
We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's Milk Chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's Milk Chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's Milk Chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.
The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power and advanced Audi tech. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's Milk Chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's Milk Chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's Milk Chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.